First of all, Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
So talk about your history with Adam Carolla. Like, how'd you get started? How'd you meet?
Yeah, so I got the call to help Adam's podcast out in 2010. That so long ago, like back then, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I don't think anybody really did. So he just asked me because I was known around as the guy who can do sound, and they didn't have a sound guy. So I said, yeah, I'll help out this podcast, whatever it is. And I go to he has a warehouse, which is basically his man cave that he just built a studio in. And I went in there, and there was a couch. They had two lavalier microphones that went straight into the headphone jack of a MacBook. And that's how they were recording the podcast.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I was, for those who don't know gear, that's, so we call JV on the Adam Carolla Show. So
it's JV.
So I helped them get the mixer, get them set up with a little bit more serious gear. And then I come from a music background. So when I went there and I heard Adam speak, the guest was actually, I believe it was Joe Rogan was the guest, who is the comedian from Fear Factor. Nobody really knew him except he outed Carlos Mencia and for stealing jokes. And then so I go and I listened to the show and I loved it. I thought the conversation was cool. It was very similar to music. It felt like I've never just seen improv conversation long form before. So I stuck around some to where I just kept coming back. Nice. And helping them out with things.
You were just like a hanger on, right? Just like,
yeah.
Keep coming back.
Popping my head in. Like,
maybe eventually I'll work with you, but who knows?
Yeah. You know what's crazy is, after that show, Joe comes into the back room and he just talks to me and he's looking around and he's looking at our gear and he's looking at the cameras and our switcher, which was the TriCaster at the time. And he looks at me and goes, I'm thinking of starting one of these. Like, do you think, can you help me, like, get this started? Yeah. So that was kind of funny. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Give me your card. And, I never called him.
Nice.
No, but he was really interested. So, and if you ask him, he'll credit Adam for inspiring him to do his podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was all from that day.
Philip over there works with Joe Rogan and has helped him out a lot as well. So we're going to look at a video, I think. Right? We got a video queued up. Maybe we can watch that for a minute and then we'll keep the conversation going.
Let's do it.
Let's see. We got a couple videos to show off. So as this goes on, we can talk a little bit of this video. It's a little bit of Blackmagic stuff. I know you use a lot of Blackmagic gear.
I love it. I love Blackmagic.
Actually, there's shirts here for everybody, so if you don't see your sides, it's not my fault.
Collect them all.
Thank you very much, Blackmagic.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a bit as we get into it, but so much cool stuff. And you guys, from all the stuff you have to do, it's now basically powered mostly by Blackmagic, right?
Yeah. So we switched over to almost exclusively Blackmagic here about 2 years ago. We started with the A10 switcher, just the 4-channel, just to try it out. We loved how portable it was. We could go out on the road and we do a lot of shows and film those too. So it was just so reliable. We loved it, and we just had to have more of their gear, like everything, cameras.
So let's go back to the beginning though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 2009. The show started.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of the show? And like, take us from when you were sticking the little JV mics into the audio cable port to where you got in the beginning.
I'll go even farther back. So the way the podcast started was Adam was a host of a radio show. He he took over for Howard Stern on FM radio for KLSX.
In LA?
In LA.
In LA, yeah.
Yeah. And he did that for about 2.5 years. And then he got word that from the station that they're switching formats. We're going to be a top 40 format. We're going to music. No more talk radio. All you guys are out. And so what he decided to do was, well, not him because he didn't know what a podcast was either, but one of his guys, Mike Chaffee, he said, hey, we should just start a podcast the next day and bring your audience over. So the next day, or the first day he was off air, he had a podcast ready, and it was just him for 32 minutes talking into a microphone, just saying, I don't know what this is. I just want to talk. I want to have a voice. And if you want to follow me here, let's do it.
How did he find his audience? I assume he took it, he put it on iTunes, and people could then listen to it. But how did he find his audience?
He had he had his website. There were forums. I mean, he already built a community that all word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth gets you a lot more than you think. And so he was able to just transfer his audience over. And I mean, so the first show didn't have a guest, and then he got his friends, like he would just call them. This is in his home office. He would get Kimmel to come over, Seth MacFarlane, and they would just come over just out of the graciousness of their hearts and just sit down with him for an hour and record. I mean, one of the podcasts they recorded, they forgot to turn the mics on, so they just used the laptop microphone.
Laptop audio. But people listened to it, right?
Yeah.
Authentic and raw.
That's the thing, especially back then, podcasting was a lot more forgiving because it was so new. So they just wanted the content. They didn't really care about the quality of the audio yet. I mean, they did, but it wasn't as important. Like, I just want to hear what they're having to say. It was all just trying to absorb ideas.
Yeah, it's kind of like being like sitting at a party where 3 of your favorite people are chatting, and you just get to be there.
We all love the eavesdrop, right?
Right. Yeah. Do you remember the gear do you remember the lavs? Do you remember like what you brought in initially?
For Sennheiser lav. So the team we had, they had a film background. So it was whatever we had so Sennheiser lavs. We had a field recorder that we would use sometimes. But mainly it was just recording straight into the MacBook onto QuickTime.
QuickTime. Oh.
Not even, yeah. Just you go to QuickTime, you just press the record button, and it would just go.
Even SoundForge or something like that.
No, it wasn't made for audio. Like they're probably like M4A files. Like they were.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So it was, or MOV files. So
were you doing video early on, or was it just audio?
We started to do video early on just because it was a film team. So we thought we should stream this live. So we used Ustream, and we had handy cams just mounted on the walls, and we would stream it, and we got an okay audience, but our audience was mainly audio just because people wanted to hear us during their commutes or while working out or mowing the lawn, whatever. So it was basically audio. So we got word from the higher ups, who were selling ads for us, like, we don't need video. Nobody's going to want video for podcasting.
Nobody's going to want to watch. Nobody's going to watch it.
Like, we're streaming live, but you guys are just talking heads. Like, you're having to you're going against snowboarders jumping out of helicopters. Like, they're going to watch you just sitting on a couch talking. So we stifled the video for a little bit, but now, I mean, it's back bigger than ever.
A story you remind me of the early days that I was running a company. We were doing Dignation, which is also an audio and a video podcast, and a bunch of others.
Yeah.
But we knew even though we called ourselves a video podcast, a lot of people listened to it, and we released the audio only. But I remember someone sent us a picture of them driving to work with their phones sitting on the dashboard so they could watch the podcast. I was like, no.
Flattered, but
please don't do that.
Please sign a release form.
Please don't do that. Okay, so you guys started to do live as well. I mean, I had my moment in the sun on the Adam Carolla Show at Comic-Con.
Jim was a guest on the Adam Carolla Show.
Oh my God, in 2010, I think, or 2011, but,
too long.
A year in. So talk about when you started to take it out of the studio and into a live. Like, why'd you go to Comic-Con, and how did you capture it and think about it and stream it or whatever?
What was really cool about podcasting compared to FM radio was there was no schedule, right? So you can go as long as you want. You don't have to, there's no minimum amount of time or maximum amount of time that you have to speak. It's so free flowing. So that was really beautiful. And also you can do it any time of the day or anywhere. So we're really into exploring that. So yeah, we would do live shows at the Improv, at comedy clubs, just try to do live podcast. See if people are just interested in watching kind of what you guys are doing now, just watching two people talk on stage and seeing if magic is going to be made, which I think it is.
You guys ever do anything with Rooftop Comedy? Remember them?
I do. We did though.
Yeah.
We kind of just did our own thing we did a lot more with just comedy clubs, improv, just any of the clubs around, the city, and then we'd travel.
So, I mean, Adam's done stand up all over the place, used to live audiences, but what was it like when you started to bring the podcast to live audiences?
It was really cool. It was huge because you're fans of this new medium that is just starting to take off, and then you get to see it live. So the tickets were great. The ticket sales were great, like because people just wanted to see what they were listening to happen right in front of them. Like, I mean, if any of us could just go to our favorite podcast and watch them do it live, like just sit in their studio or something, we would all do it just because it's just rare. Like you get to see what you're hearing, it's so intimate, and then you get to watch them do it on stage. So, the tickets were great. I mean, it was a new thing. So, and the comedy clubs loved it because it was easy enough for them, and every show is different. So you could
exactly.
A couple of
it's like the same thing every time you sit up. Let's talk about video a little bit as you started to integrate video. You said you were using Ustream, which was an early sold to IBM. I remember those guys. But I went up on YouTube, and your first video on YouTube was, get this, December 22nd, 2011. It's still there. You can watch it.
I encourage you to watch it.
With Norm Macdonald.
Yes, the great Norm Macdonald.
Tell me about that. Why YouTube? How'd that come about? Obviously, you still do YouTube, and you're huge there today, but tell me about how that came about and how that might have changed your workflow.
Right. So, YouTube obviously is the biggest player in the game as far as streaming video goes, and we caught wind of that. The quality was good. So we just it's all just, the thing about what we're doing is it was so early on that there wasn't a path that we could take that was already forged. We kind of had to just try everything and then see what worked because it was such a new medium. So yeah, we tried everything: YouTube, Facebook, Live, whatever, Ustream. I'm Justin TV. Like we've done it all.
Justin TV.
Yeah.
How many people know what Justin TV is now? All right, Twitch, right? So you were on Twitch before it was.
We're the OGs of stream. So we just that was like why it was exciting. We just tried whatever we could to see what our audience would be receptive to, and so YouTube, we ended up working with one of Adam's old producers of The Man Show and legendary Letterman producer Daniel Kellison, and so he started the Video Podcast Network, Jash. And he got in with us and just, we filmed interviews with, Norm and Artie Lang and just all these amazing comedians that, they still hold up today. Anything Norm Macdonald does holds up today. So it's still up there. And the quality's great. We had cameramen in there in the studio just walking around. It was totally different than what we were used to, but we loved it.
Yeah, I was going back to the past looking at the Video Podcast Network. I'd forgotten about those guys. I was like, oh my God. By the way, somebody needs to update the links in the descriptions, because if you click on the Video Podcast Network link, it takes you to a place you don't want to go. Just saying.
Yeah, do not click that.
If anybody wants to go cleanse that might not be a bad idea. All right, let's talk about the evolution of it. And, you guys are still in the same space that you were when you started. I think our next video might be a video about your studio, taking a look at it, and then we can talk a little bit about that evolution and how your gear evolved and how your production evolved. Can we take a look at that video right there?
Lots of money that was put in my car. One of the receipts is for 4 new tires. I'm Adam Carolla, host of the Adam Carolla Show and the current holder of the Guinness Book of World Records most downloaded podcast.
Hey, I'm Chris Laxamana from the Adam Carolla Show. The show started in 2009, just celebrated its 14-year anniversary. So we started using Blackmagic cameras a few years ago. It started off with just one pocket cam, and we loved it so much. It was so easy to use.
Ever since we started using Blackmagic Design camera and switchers and equipment, it has made the visual component of the podcast much more streamlined, much easier, much faster, much more efficient.
Personally, what I love the best is its reliability. I never have to worry about anything happening with these cameras. They're so good. We take them on the road, and the picture is superior. The quality is incredible. We love that we can use different lenses, get different looks, and just the ease of use for us and what we're trying to do is exactly what we've always wanted. We're now using the TV studio cameras, which I think are incredible. That huge LED screen is beautiful. It's vibrant, it's crystal clear, and yeah, there's no camera like it. Now we can focus on the content, we can focus on the comedy, we can focus on the great moments of the show and not have to worry about what's going on with our equipment, because we already know it's going to look incredible, it's going to feel incredible, and it's going to get to our audience in a great way.
What I love about Blackmagic Design is it's so intuitive, it syncs very easily, and I can't wait to see what Blackmagic Design has waiting for us in the future.
All right, good stuff. Hey, you're great on camera.
Oh,
do more.
Let's do it. You get
doing it now. So let's talk about how the studio evolved and how you built on what you already had.
Sure.
What, if you look back and think about, okay, 2010, where were you in 2015 and how did you build on, going from JV to varsity?
Okay, so we started on the couch with lavalier mics, and we didn't like it just for performance because a lot of our guests were just sitting back and just like almost like they're just a little too relaxed. And Adam comes from a radio background where you have to be on. He wants you to be aware. He wants you to be funny. So we got higher chairs. We got everybody to sit up. We have microphones, and also with a lavalier mic, no matter if you look left or right, you kind of are off mic a little bit. And comedians, I mean, the microphone is their tool. So if they want to scream, they can get off it a little bit and then come back in, and they can, they know how to work it. So, and we have a lot of comedians on, so we just thought, okay, and the audio is just better too. So we went to table mics. We use the Rode broadcasters now.
Use the which ones? The
Rode broadcasters.
Yeah, the Rodes are good.
We
use a Rode Procaster or something like that at home too.
So we use those for our microphones, and I mean, they've been going great. And we have a big console table now. So yeah, we sit up. It's a little more. You're just a little more aware. So it's really just performance-based why we went to that seat. Also, we built the walls, made them acoustically treated, so it's a lot drier sound. And now we can have musicians play in there. And we
started putting in a bunch of stuff to deaden it out so it wouldn't be all reverby. And,
yeah.
Put some sound traps in the corners.
We decided to, just go a little more professional. So, and Adam has a construction background, so we actually put the walls up.
Wait, he's got a construction background?
I know.
Your host was helping to build it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were laying drywall. Up studs. We're doing it all, yeah.
Did you make video of it? Did you do it?
This video, yeah, the whole team was doing it. And then, and what's good about doing that is you can put all the wires inside the walls and everything and really just do a custom design. So, so our studio, we've had the studio we have now since 2012. And we get compliments on it all the time. Like, it's really nice.
So what was one of the most surprising things that you did when you were doing that initial build out and you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad we did that. That was so smart, but I didn't even think it would be this important.
I would say, separating the engineers from the studio, just because there's a lot going on behind the scenes. You don't want to be able to hear them. You don't want, so that's big, and they can still communicate. So having the glass, like, as I said, it's all radio background for us. I mean, Adam's so good at radio. We barely make edits. And if I'm talking about editing too, I suggest if it's a conversation like this, keeping it genuine is a lot better than going through the audio and taking out any ums or knows or things like that. If it's more of a documentary style podcast that you're all trying to do, maybe you can clean it up, or because it's scripted. But so we and Adam, so we rarely edit. He just goes live to tape. He just has that professional background, so we're really blessed to have somebody that can do that. And I've worked with a ton of comedians, a ton of talent. Him and Dr. Drew are the only two guys that can do that, and that's probably just because they've been broadcasting since the 90s. Yeah,
I met Dr. Drew once. He seems like a real pro too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I have to say about furniture, by the way, 100%, because I do a lot of stuff on stages like this, and I'll walk into a venue and they have those bucket chairs where you're going to interview someone and you can sit back.
I know.
That is the worst. And
let's get a couple Adirondacks on here.
Stand up. Like the more you stand up, the more you get your, body going too. So did you guys ever think about doing like high stools or standing?
Oh, well, our table is tall enough to where if you want to stand, you can stand. We comedians want to stand, be on their feet. We encourage it. Yeah.
And you got the mics there and you can do it and make it easy to go back and forth. What about, I love your quote on there about being able to put the equipment in and then not worry about it. Like, cause I'm a gearhead. I love the equipment. I want to play with the equipment all day long. For you, it's like make it work, get out of the way, right?
Yeah, we've had equipment fail on us a lot over the years, and to the point where you kind of now, if you're performing, you're trying to create content, having that anxiety, even just 10% in the back of your head, like, I hope this camera doesn't go out. Oh, did I charge that enough? Like, thinking like that. Don't worry about that. Like, prepare yourself for success and to where you can just focus strictly on your message, your content, your voice, and not have to worry about what's happening technically, because, you're just going to get a much better podcast, video performance. And that's huge. Like, just especially with comedy, you got to be 100% in it when you're doing it. If it's in the back of your head, your audience will sniff that out.
Well, so let's talk about, 2015 to maybe today or maybe right before the pandemic. Did you rip a bunch of gear out and replace it, or were you able to build on top of things? Or, did some of your mics die and you had to bring in new mics? Talk about what changed over the sort of latter half of the 2010s.
Yeah, so our mics, our microphones have been pretty great. Well, we moved over to more digital processing. We used to use tube preamps and compressors and things like that, but we decided to just go digital because it's now really good. It's reliable. I mean, everything's good now as far as gear goes with processing.
Like 2496, or you do higher bit rates? Like,
Oh no, we don't even go that.
Really?
Yeah, we record 24-bit 4800.
2448, yeah. So that clock, 48,000 cycles a second.
Here's the thing. We're not recording like drums,
right.
So it's just two people talking, three people talking.
Are important.
I know, not ours. We can, our thing is, as long as they can understand you, you're okay. Just make sure that your voice is clear and they can understand you.
But what we, in video even, I learned this my early days of video, is voice is more important than video quality. I mean, the video can suck, but if the audio sucks, people just they're going to change the channel.
Yeah, now, especially now, yeah. But for voice, I mean, I'd be pressed to find somebody who goes, did they record that in 16-bit? Right. Like when it's just people talking, you're not going to see that.
Yeah, all right, I get it. I used to do field recording of bands, and I was like, I want more bits, more cycles, more.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. So you would probably know, if I gave you a fish bootleg that was.
Yeah, right. When I'm doing my fish bootlegs, you want the highest quality you can get. Absolutely. Okay, so we got into COVID. COVID changed things. People couldn't come into the studio anymore, right?
That was huge. When I remember I was driving into work, and we got word. I should have noticed when there was no traffic on the way to LA.
In LA, no traffic.
Yeah, and the roads are completely clear. But I remember driving into work, and we got word that, oh yeah, nobody's coming into work, and we had to put a show out. So I grabbed as much gear as I could, cameras, microphones, just equipment, laptops, and I just drove to everybody's house and dropped it off with instructions on how to use it. And then we did a test run, and then the next day we put out a show. We did it I remember the first show we did remotely. It was Adam with Jimmy Kimmel and Kevin and Bean from Kevin and
each of them were in different places?
Yeah.
And what did you use for software to connect it up? I mean, everybody had internet, obviously.
At that time, we used Zoom. So everybody had their own cameras. They had their own microphones, and we just used Zoom, and I literally pressed record meeting, and we did that. But the thing about that too is, see, that people are forgiving if they understand the circumstances, right? Like, okay, yeah, you're not all together. This isn't going to be a studio recording, but it's kind of cool that I'm listening to all of you communicate the way that, I mean, we all kind of had to communicate for a long time after that. So you understand it.
So over time, and we went through the same thing when I was doing VidCon at Paramount and went through it with a lot of the other stuff we were doing. We eventually found software that would ISO record locally and do things like, I know Zoom offers that now too. But how did you start to think about, well, maybe we need to be able to get people to record at home and then upload it? Did you move from Zoom to something else, or where'd you go there?
I've tried I've tried StreamYard. I've tried Riverside. The reason we like Zoom is because you would be surprised how many celebrities don't know how to use technology. It's crazy. So if the easier we could make it for them, the better. And it was just click this link and then just start talking. That's what we cared about the most, because all we cared about is content. If they're, the last thing we want is recording a show and everybody's trying to figure out how to do it, and, oh, you're muted, oh, you don't have audio, oh, we can't see you, things like that. So click this button and make it go. And at that time, Zoom was the easiest thing for that.
Yeah, the beauty of it was it just worked. I remember that. It's like, just get on Zoom and you know what? We're going to do it. If something happens, it happens.
And that just goes back to what I said, like, figure out a way to just worry about the content and everything else. If everything else works, then you're okay.
So when COVID started to end and you went back to the studio, did you bring things into the studio that you learned during the time of COVID?
Yeah, well, remote guests became a more regular thing. Yeah, so we used to not take remote guests, but now we'll sprinkle them in every once in a while, especially if they're on the other side of the country, but we still just want to talk to them. And we're all kind of used to that now. We all have accepted that as a way to communicate. So it worked.
Yeah, I was looking at one of your videos, and I know it wasn't in the studio. I think it was at some car museum, but there was a face-to-face interview, and then Jay Leno was on the screen. Yeah. Talk about how that happened, and that felt natural when I was watching it, but probably took a lot of practice to get there, right?
We've been doing that for years. So we would go on the road and we would project a guest on the screen. So for our live podcast, Adam can just talk to a guest and have a conversation in front of everybody, and the guest can still interact with the crowd, and it's live. So that we've been doing that for a long time. Even before COVID, really. Yeah. I mean, we used to have issues. I remember some venues, they would have the same internet as their credit card machines, and the second cards would run, the video would just pixelate and freeze.
It's so funny. Yeah.
But I mean, we've been doing that for a long time. It was kind of our thing for a while.
Well, the state of internet is uneven still, but back then, yeah.
We did one time we did this show where, we had this company, I forget what they were called, but they had a robot on wheels. And it had a screen. And I think this is the same.
That was iRobot, probably. Yeah, I remember those. Telepresence robots.
Telepresence. It was like the same thing that I think they're trying to get doctors to use, to just stroll into your room and without having to be there into your hospital bed and just like talk to you via robot. So we used that on stage, and we had Joel McHale come on, and he was able to control it from his keyboard, going right to left. And it didn't really work out as we wanted. We lobbed it up, and then we've had misses.
I love that you like experimenting though. So talk about experimentation and how much you
have to.
Well, but also I'm gonna get back to gear for a minute. If it's like when I run events, right? When you run an event, you want to plan for everything you possibly can, so you can deal with the things that might break at the time. Sounds like for you, if the gear's all going to work, then you can play around with it. But if you're worried about the gear, you can't experiment in other ways, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what's cool. I mean, we're with creators especially, is just the possibilities are endless. And so whatever new idea you have, if you want to try it, and might as well. I mean, what's beautiful about a lot of things on the internet is if it doesn't really work that well, I mean, you'll forget about it. People will forget about it. Like,
except it's on YouTube forever.
Well, then you can laugh at it later, but we all just understand, oh yeah, you tried it, didn't work, but.
Yeah, your audience is forgiving, and they kind of like it anyway, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's real. Like, being genuine is so big. Like, the audience is smart. If you're doing something that you don't really believe in, or that you don't really think is going to work, then yeah, it's not going to work that well. But if you try it and the audience knows that it's genuine, you mean it, you're saying what you mean, you have a voice, you have an opinion, then yeah, that's going to work a lot better.
Let's talk about your touring setup for a minute. So Adam's on tour now. I asked you this question. You played in Bakersfield, I think, on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you just come hot off of Bakersfield to Vegas? And you said no. But so how do you manage the show when he's on tour?
So we do live podcasts. We would do few shows a weekend. Like I used to go out for 2 weekends a year on the road and just go to different clubs, theaters, and set up live podcasts. My setup would be the Roadcaster typically.
The Roadcaster.
So this is what I would do just to get people up on the
I love my Roadcaster, by the way. Nice little 4-channel. It just works so well for an audio idiot like me. So yeah.
Right. So I would bring the Roadcaster and I would have everything go through that. And then I would have my laptop next to it, and the projector would just be like an extension for my laptop. So then all the audio, all of Adam's mics, Adam's microphone, the Zoom audio that I was using, my microphone, going through the Roadcaster, and I would send out one feed to the comedy club or the theater. So they would just have one master mix for just the levels in the house, while I controlled all the mix in the Roadcaster. And then we were able to project, and everything would work that way. And then I would use Blackmagic cameras. I would just set them up like a 3 pocket cams or studio cams, and then into an ATEM ISO, so all the isolated videos would record, and just click record there, click record on the Roadcaster, and you got a show, baby.
Would you live switch the video or just do it later?
I'll do it later. Yeah, so what's beautiful about Blackmagic's ISO ATEMs is they record everything synced up in the feed or on a drive, and then you could just go into DaVinci Resolve and edit to your heart's desire.
Yeah, pop it into Resolve and even do it real time if you want to, right? Mm-hmm. Do real time, or generally real time.
I switch it, yeah.
Would you record the audio in the Roadcaster as well for backup? How do you think about the backup? Yeah.
Always. I always have a backup. Always have a backup. Big. Because if something crashes, you want to at least have.
So the show's over. You need to get something up and out to the fans. How long after the show is over would you then be able to produce it up and put it out? It's a couple days, a couple hours?
We're a daily podcast, so we record and we put it up 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. So we record at typically 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it would be up by 9. Yeah.
Wow. And what is your team like? What's your team like on the road? What's your team like in the studio?
I am the team on the road.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would just come with all the gear. I would get to the venue as early as I can and just set it all up. I mean, so what's good about all this gear is it's so reliable. I can just set it up pretty easily. I have a system. You press record and you just let the show do its thing. I mean, I also do all the prep work. I would do news stories, write the games, things like that.
Well, you're here. Who's doing it today?
This is why I don't know what to say, because I need a prompter.
I need a prompter.
This is my prompter.
No, it's all right. So who's back in the studio? What does the rest of Adam's team look like? I mean, it's not just you two running everything, is it?
Oh, no, we have producers. We have senior producers. We have voiceover, voice of God guys. We have Mike Dawson. Shout out to Mike Dawson, producer extraordinaire. Yeah, we have a whole team now. We have a video team. We have audio, all of it, social media. We have one of the bigger teams in podcasting, I think now. Yeah.
Yeah. And from a monetization perspective, who's handling the monetization side? Are you guys doing it yourself, or you have you have a distribution company that does it?
Podcast One. So yeah, Podcast One started as an advertising sales company, and then they became a network. They've absorbed a lot of shows. I mean, they have a huge list of podcasts on their lineup now. So they sell the ads. I mean, as far as making money goes, we do live reads, we do pre-recorded ads, we do digital ad insertion.
A couple of just quick things on some of the other things that you guys are doing. Just think it's hilarious. Not hilarious. It's fun. It's entertaining. And I'm also jealous, but I'm going to come out here for questions. So if you guys have questions for Chris, I'll be out running a mic. But, first of all, you're a performer too. You're a musician. You play guitar.
I do. Yeah. I played on the show a few times. I love playing. It's my favorite thing to do.
Band's called Laxy.
Yeah.
And, you just catch you in a city near where we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not playing out here in Vegas this time because I'm up here talking, but.
So you guys did a thing with John Popper from Blues Traveler. I'm a jam band fan. I saw that.
Yes.
Oh my God, John Popper. So talk about what that was like and, why you did it, where it came up, and then you actually got to play with him, right?
Yeah. So, John Popper, singer of Blues Traveler, he's a big friend of the show. We used to have him on all the time. We used to play this bit called Can John Popper Make It Better, where we would play Adam's most hated songs and then have him play the harmonica over it, and he would typically make it better. So we started going on the road with him. We did live shows and events, and we wanted to do music. So John was out there, my band was out there, so we learned a lot of Blues Traveler songs and got to play some of his hits with him in front of an audience, and it was just magical. Yeah, he's the most amazing harmonica player I've ever heard.
I rode up in an elevator once with him in New York City. That was the closest I ever got, but I've heard him. He's amazing.
Yeah. And his hat has harmonicas all over it. He comes with like a harmonica in every key. He's just
amazing. He's just, what a virtuoso. Are you guys going to go on tour? If so, I'm definitely coming.
I know. Let's plan something. I have nothing planned yet, but, now that I know you're coming, I think
I'm going to sign up for your email list. Are there questions here for Chris? Anybody? Question in the back. Come in.
I mean, it's amazing that you're doing daily.
Yeah.
How do you keep that fresh? I mean, it's been such a long time, and Adam is like, still hilarious, but like, I'm really curious how you're keeping that fresh for your guys.
Actually, so we don't think of that as a disadvantage. We look at it as an opportunity to get as topical as we can. So, we do a news segment. So it's kind of interesting that when you listen to our show, something that just happened is being talked about every day, and people kind of like that. So there's always fresh material out there. So, the Daily Show it does sound like whenever guests come in, like this airs when? It airs in a few hours. Like it's weird to them, but as I said, we have that radio background. So we look at it as an opportunity to talk about what's going on.
Cool. Other questions out here? Here, got a question right here. Go right ahead, Robert.
Is it still Zoom that you're using for, the remotes from the studio and when you guys are on the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we like it. It's clear. I mean, I am exploring doing some isolated recordings, but because we are a daily show, you got to look at it as a not an opportunity. We have to put it up so quickly. So
all him.
It's all me. No, because we put it up so quickly, we just do Zoom just because it's easier. But I am exploring other options to do some isolated audio, isolated recordings, because I understand the benefit of that, and I definitely want to explore it. So
Zoom lets you ISO now.
They do, but there are better ones.
Better ones. Okay. Other questions. We have just a couple minutes. Somebody might are going to make me run to the back again. All right.
Let's have them do laps. Somebody up here next. Okay.
For new podcasters, is there any mistakes that you see most often, or any advice?
Yeah. As I said earlier, have a voice, have an opinion, have something to say. That's probably the biggest thing is, if you're just going up there and being diplomatic, wishy-washy, nobody's really going to want to hear that. Say what you mean, be genuine, and just believe in what you do. Also, video is huge now. I would say almost more important than audio, because, and this is just for marketing. I get a lot of guest requests from PR, like, oh, please have my author on, please have my comedian on, and they'll give me their social media. They have 100,000 followers, and I'll look, but each post will have 2 comments, and you can tell follower counts and things like that don't really matter. What matters is engagement. Make things that people can share, right? That's the biggest thing is. Because and that's why video is so important, because nobody wants to send somebody an audio clip. I'm not going to text my friend, oh, listen to this, it's hilarious, and they have to listen to it. But if it's a captioned video clip, I'll send that to them, and they can watch it on mute while they're just, I don't know, cooking dinner or something, or eating dinner, whatever, and they can share that. So whatever can be shared is way more, is just so much more important than the number of subscribers or whatever. Just, you want people sharing as much as you can. So create things that people can share.
That is probably the best advice we've heard on stage in at least the last, hour or so. No, we had great stuff all day. I want to wrap it up with, if you were for somebody who's just starting out, what are your 2, 3, 4 pieces of gear that's like, you know what? If I was starting today, I would get X, Y, Z, and A.
Okay. I like the Rodecaster. That's a given, but if you just take a Zoom recorder with the SM58, you could even put 2 of them on there and just do that. That's
SM58. Is that the mic?
It's what we're talking into right now, but the wired version.
Right. The wired version of that. Yeah. Okay. That Rodecaster.
Those are great. And then for cameras, Blackmagic makes some very affordable cameras, and
one of those micro 4/3 cameras, right?
Oh yeah.
Those things are awesome.
Video cams, the we use are micro 4/3.
All right. That's all the time we have. We have a lot more stuff going on here at the Creator Lab today and tomorrow and Wednesday too. So make sure you come and stay. Chris, thank you so much for coming to join. Thank you, Blackmagic. Thank you,
Blackmagic.
And we will see you.
Give it up for Jim too. Come on, guys. He's up here working hard all day.
Fun.
Yes.